chatted about principles versus preferences, and let's get into now a little bit more about principles and how we are going to turn our values into principles. And what's the difference between a value and a principle? And I kind of just, I guess my answer is that the value is just a little bit lower level. It's the seed or the sapling of what a principle is. So if I think of a value like honesty, I believe in honesty. I think that's a good thing. So then I can form a principle out of that value and say that a principle that I'm going to hold is that I will tell the truth. And that's the principle. And now if I find some circumstance that I don't want to tell the truth, or I think it's better if I don't, well, then I would need to go back and change the value if I didn't want to, in fact, tell the truth. So perhaps I would alter that to say, I will tell the truth, except that I will omit when people have really bad breath. Or something to that effect. So you can leave yourself outs. However, I think it's important to make sure that your principle includes those outs in it, so that you're not always saying, well, okay, I'm going to flex that one a little bit. Well, I'm going to cheat just a little bit here or there or the other place. So here's another one. Peace. I value peace and leaving other people alone. So out of that, I could form the principle, I will not initiate violence against others. That's the non-aggression principle, which I think we've heard of, the NAP. So that would be of the principle that I developed from the value of several values, one of those being wanting peace and not initiating violence, and then the other part being just leaving other folks alone. So those are a couple of the ways, a couple examples that I've taken some of my values and turned them into principles. And so, by the way, I have a list I mentioned earlier of over 100 values, and I'll put them in show notes. But if you just want to look at for them before that, you can go to openlyvoluntary.com/let's think. And you'll see a link to them there in the show notes. And this list is not every single value out there. I started with hundreds and I narrowed it down to what it is. You don't even have to use the ones. You don't have to use my wording. I just think it's kind of a good bouncing off point for you to look at that and go, oh, you know what? You didn't mention the value here, but I believe blah, blah, blah. And then you can form a principle from that. On the phone, I have Jake from Baltimore. Jake, how are you tonight?
Chilling like a villain. How you doing?
Perfect. Doing great. Hey, so as you know, we're talking about values this evening. What can you think of a value you have that you are living by and taking action on?
Value of mine is I don't like the state in my life.
Hey, I hear that.
I try to live on this value with a self-imposed principle of not involving the state in my life. To the extent as much as is practical anyway.
Right.
Yeah, they like to assert a forced monopoly on a lot of things that you got to use, whether it's provided by private means or by the state or whatever, such as roads. But
right.
For example, I have no intention of sending my kid to a public school.
Okay, so you have one child. How old is your kiddo?
Just one, to my knowledge. He's 2.5.
Perfect. 2.5 years old. So are you planning on sending Christian schools or homeschooling or unschooling, or what's your thought?
I have a split custody situation, so it's not entirely up to me. My preference would be unschooling. His mother, who does have some input, I think she does either want full-blown public school or at least we may compromise with a private, like a Sudbury kind of school, which is it employs the principle of self-directed learning, in which you learn in the course of pursuing your interests, rather than the public school system, which is modeled after the Prussian system. I call the Prussian indoctrination system. The King of Prussia, back when Prussia was a country, wanted to create a generation of obedient workers who will be loyal to the state and eagerly fight in its wars. And
yes, you sound like you might have done some John Taylor Gatto reading and research as well. Is that where you learned some of
That's
this?
not where I learned that, but I actually am in the middle of Dumbing Us Down by John Taylor Gatto.
What? I just finished that a week ago. That's hilarious. Well, hey, it's so good to see that there are other normal people out there, other thinkers. Thank you for calling in and sharing your value. Thank you for living by it and doing everything in your power to follow your value. And, I'm not going to say if it's a good or bad value. As with any value, it's up to us as individuals what it is we want to choose. But Jake doesn't want to use state services any more than he absolutely has to. So what's he going to do? He's going to do everything in his power to either have his kid homeschooled or in a private school. And something really interesting that Jake just mentioned was a principle. And he mentioned it, and I didn't even catch it right when he said it, but now I'm thinking about it. And he mentioned about the principle of self-directed learning. So, it's just how much principles are in our lives. So his belief system is that children learn better when they are, studying things that they're interested in, self-directed. And so that is what this school that he's interested in is specializes in, is self-directed learning. So thank you again, Jake, for your call. On the line, we have Yakov in Las Vegas. Yakov, say howdy to your tribe.
Hi, Shepard. Hi, tribe.
Hi there. Well, so
thinkers, right?
Absolutely. That's what we all like to think that we are, and I think that at least if we're going for it, we're getting somewhere. So we're talking about values today, as you know, and I'm wondering what are just maybe name one. What's a top value or principle of yours?
So actually, what I wanted to mention to you was something. It's kind of a profound concept called subjective value theory, and it's the idea that kind of all values that we deal with as individuals, whether, financially or just different values in our lives, all of these are subjective to the individual.
So
really
subjective, like
because,
as opposed to being objective, it's a subjective thing. It's not the same universally?
Right. Yeah. You might like chocolate ice cream, and I might hate chocolate ice cream.
Okay. That makes sense.
Right. So each of us values different things. And the really cool thing about that is that it shows how in voluntary human interactions, we can have these real win-win scenarios where you value the thing that you're going to trade to me less than the thing that I'm going to trade to you, and vice versa. I value the thing that you're going to give me greater than the thing that I'm giving you. And so we can both win in this situation because our own internal values are different. And that also shows us something really interesting when it comes to involuntary trades, which is that when a trade is forced, it's something that we don't choose. It actually destroys value. And
how does it destroy value?
Don't really recognize. Well, if you're taking something from me against my will, it's something that I valued greater than the loss of it, right?
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
So all of that value exists only in our mind,
Okay, so the value isn't just out there. It's not an intrinsic thing. And until we come along, that thing doesn't have any value until we place the value on it.
Yeah, correct.
Well, that is very interesting.
Valuation actually, it changes the state of something. So something where I could either give a donation to charity or somebody could steal my wallet. I'm still out the same $100, but the value of that transaction is totally different.
Subjective.
Right.
Well, thank you so much for that wonderful point. That's a very good thing to think about. Maybe someday we'll even do a show on and what do we call this? Subjective value?
Subjective value theory.
Subjective value theory. Well, thank you, Yakov from Las Vegas, and thank you for listening to Let's Think.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Don't you just enjoy smart people that kind of think outside of the box and know their stuff and are willing to speak up and not just kind of, you know what you think, what you believe is the right thing and the wrong thing, but you look around and you see so many people that look to their left and they look to their right and they see, are the other people going to be okay if I say this? Should I say this or will this hurt? If the wrong client or vendor for my business hears this, it could hurt me. And geez, I completely get that. That's what I live. That's my life. But it sure is good to hear from smart people that are willing to speak out about what it is that they're thinking and believing in at the moment. So it kind of comes. The question comes up is we've talked about the values and the principles and we've really gotten into it. But what's in it for you? Why is it a good thing? who am I to say that you should now all of a sudden make sure you know what your values are and your principles are? Who am I to say that? Well, I'm nobody. I'm just some guy that for the last 10 to 12 years, I have become much better at identifying my own principles and living by them. And the last few years especially under the mentorship of Karl Wattner, founder of The Voluntaryist, I've just kind of realized that it's the means, not the ends. And that's what's right for me. Maybe it's not right for you, but I sleep so well at night. Every day, every moment, I try to do the right thing. And oh, do I ever mess up? I absolutely mess up. But then I think about it, and if I've already done the mess up, then I'll apologize to whoever I've harmed, and then go on from there, try to make things right. And if I haven't done it yet, then I rethink it and go, no, that's not what I'm about. That's not what I'm going to do. So yeah, you do the best you can. And of course, you can't live a practical, pragmatically comfortable life in a different environment. We're in an environment where you have to have some state involvement. You have to be around some stuff you don't like. But I think if we each do the best we can, and in each moment we think, hey, is there anything I can do to have less involvement in the stuff that I don't think is good? And you work toward that. I think that's a good and honorable thing to do. Well, friends, until next Saturday evening at 6 p.m. Denver time, I will say take care, be good, and I will see you then. Join the conversation by joining our forum at openlyvoluntary.com/let's think.
So long, it's been good to know you. So long, it's been good to know you. What a long time since I've been home, and I gotta be drifting along. I've sung this song, but I'll sing it again, of the people I've met and the places I've been, and the places I've been, and the